Yes, Jeffers, we want to look at this the club called Scorecard 2024. It's been an amazing year in the world of football, especially we are concentrating on Premier League. Jeffers, welcome once again. And I'm going to start with you, club scorecard. And as I've said, it's been a wonderful years. Arsenal, we thank God they couldn't win the league. Oh, sorry, Arsenal were able to.
Quick one. I got that one. That was a low blow, but I'll take it all the same.
All right. In 2024, going into this season, I mean, around and Arsenal, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Brentford, Brighton, Chelsea, Crystal Palace, Everton, and also Fulham, Ipswich, Leicester City, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, and Newcastle United, Nottingham Forest, Southampton, Spurs, and West Ham also, not forgetting Wolves. What's your take? The scorecard for this
Okay.
2024 for these teams. Talk to
All
me,
right.
bro. Talk
It's
to me.
20 teams, so I'm going to be very, very fast. Not 20.
Mm.
I'm just going to drop it as it is. For Arsenal, I'll rate Arsenal. I'll rate Arsenal an 8.5 over 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give them
Wow.
8.5 because of this thing.
Yes.
The truth is this: what denied them getting that 10 was two
Yes.
things. One, they pushed, but they couldn't get the league title in what everyone expected that they might actually do. Because not for any fault of theirs, but because City were actually on a fantastic run.
Yeah.
And because of the fact that when everyone with how City has been so far from the lower part of this year in question, it
Yeah.
is where the Arsenal have taken the gauntlet, but somehow Liverpool has beaten them to it. And I think the inability to actually get a striker to actually finish up
Mm.
is actually what is holding them right now. So based on that, I'm giving them an 8.5. Apart from that, they've had a fantastic year. I mean, it's very rare for you to see a team go in a full year and actually win by 5 goals or more in 5 games in a single year.
In a
It's
single
unheard
year.
of. Actually,
Mm.
it's not heard of in the Premier League. So they've actually done, and I must say kudos to them for that. For Aston Villa, I'll give Aston Villa a 7.5.
Me
Yes,
too. Me
for
too.
one reason. Unai Emery has made this side look from just being there to actually a side that people are talking about European contenders.
Yeah.
It's never
Can you imagine? Real deal.
this was a
Fantastic.
side that as at ago they were at a point whereby they were dead under Steven Gerrard. Now Unai Emery came in and all of a sudden Aston Villa is taking the regular big boys and giving them all sorts of pressures. Basically, whenever any Arsenal fan looks at the Premier League for the year, they
Mm.
look at that game at the Emirates against Aston Villa and say that was a game where we lost the league title. And
Mm.
he's been able to replicate it even in the second half when the season started, even up to this point, he's been able to replicate it. They've been on a very good rise in form. And I think another person that we actually, when you look at that team, there's no way you can actually say it more than the fact that we need to look at John Duran. This was a player who basically surplus to requirements, and all of a sudden here he is right now,
Mm.
scoring goals, becoming the perfect super sub, and you
Super
begin to
sub.
wonder. It only takes a
From
manager that
where?
has the boldness. Actually, he was at Aston Villa all this while. They wanted to
Can you
sell him to
imagine?
Chelsea. It's just that Chelsea refused to bulk for the funds. They felt that they could get him for cheaper, and they pulled out. And here he is. He's been rewarded with a new contract. So obviously that chance is not going to come again. So
Yeah.
I think they've lost. Apart from that, I think they've been doing fine. Even their experts in the Champions League, they've lost only one game in the Champions League. That tells you that this side are actually doing great under Miami. So I would actually give them a 7.5 for 2024.
7.5.
For
Bournemouth.
AFC Bournemouth,
Mm.
Bournemouth,
Mm.
I will rate Bournemouth a 6 because of this reason. It's very rare for a small side to actually go to Old Trafford to beat the great Manchester United.
Hands down.
Hands down.
Always.
It's very rare to do it. But what is extraordinary is the ability for being able to do it twice in the same year. I
Same
mean,
here.
you just have to be able to burn out. I do not
Fantastic.
know what is going on there, but I think I will look at it that this is a club that is showing how a proper club should be run. there were some signings that were made in this club that people have not actually paid attention to, and those signings are the ones that are actually taking this club to where they are right now. I'm talking about players like Antoine Semenyo. Semenyo came in from the championship.
Semenyo,
He
and
came in from the championship,
is doing
and he
well.
has set the
Good
Premier
player.
League on fire. Another one is Milos Kekes. Kekes,
Yes.
where they got that guy from, I have no idea, but believe me, that guy looks like the perfect fullback. And the way he takes on his opponents tells you that something is working at Bournemouth, that they are silently and gradually creating a team that obviously will be serious mid-table challengers. They are not going down anytime soon. It's just as if the legacy that Eddie Howe set up before he left them, even when they went on relegation and they came back, is still there. It's working for them. For Brentford,
No, from Brentford.
FC Brentford.
Yeah.
I think last
Yes.
season, last on the starting of the year, basically they were just getting back to welcoming Ivan Tony back from
Aventoni.
his long suspension. And
Yeah.
funny enough, when everyone thought that the second coming might be good, before the season ended, Tony had only one goal. That's
Can
the
you
funniest
imagine?
part. He had only
Can
one
you
goal
imagine? Only
from
one
when he
goal.
came
Yeah.
back to the end. To the end. Now, everyone was worried when Tony left, like, okay, what's going to happen next to Brentford? And this
Brentford.
is the interesting part. The replacement they signed for Ivan Tony got injured
Injured. Yeah.
in his
From
very
the beginning
first
of
game
the
in pre-season.
in
For
this
the beginning
season.
of the season, so
Pre-season.
basically he's already out. So now you're wondering, but
How are they going to do it?
Brentford are actually in a very comfortable position.
Yeah.
This is a team
I'm
that
going to. Yeah.
they've lost only one game at the GTEC Stadium this
Can you
season.
imagine?
It tells you the fact that Thomas Frank has been able to do a very good job with this side.
Absolutely.
There are no big names. These are all players that you can actually get for easy dollar, and they are working together as a unit to actually get the job done. The burden that Ivan Tony actually was taking for scoring goals has now been split between
Split.
Yuan Wissa and Brandon Buemo, and both
Mbuemo.
guys are
They are
delivering
very good.
as it is.
They are
They are
very good. They
delivering
are
as
doing
it
well.
is.
Yeah.
So for me, I will actually rate Brentford a 6 as well too.
6 as well.
Yes.
Now,
From
talk to me about
Brighton and
Brighton.
home,
Look at
Albion.
they're
Whoa,
not bad
okay.
too.
They're not doing bad actually. Brighton are 10th on the table. I think they just
Yeah.
hit a rough patch right now. And why I'm actually worried is because of the fact that they started the year on this same rough patch, if you remember very well.
Yeah.
They started the
Yes.
year on the same rough patch, and that eventually led to Marco De Zerbi actually leaving, Roberto De Zerbi leaving his
Zebi.
post at the end of the season. Yeah, and they started the second half of the year as well, high performances. I mean, it's not easy to actually get to the Emirates to actually go and get a draw. In fact, when we realized that Arsenal actually had 10 men in that game,
Yes.
and
Can you imagine?
funny how they were able to manage Brighton is still what baffles a lot of people, because Brighton came all out, but that defensive setup that Arteta has set up with his team is what actually works for him, and that is why he still has a good side. But Brighton, for me, what will make me rate Brighton on a 5 is because of this run. One thing with Brighton is this: they are fantastic when they're actually on it, but when they want to go on that slump,
They they
they
they,
also go on a
they go down.
fantastic run of dropping games, exactly, and that is just it. That's why I'm actually rating them a 5. Um,
On
Apart from that, I
Chelsea.
think they've got a good side. You're looking at the unveiling of you're looking at players like you're looking at players now like Jacoba Minte actually coming to actually take over, take commanding control. You're seeing O'Reilly, you're seeing Fede Cardiogo at the bottom from Fenerbahce, who is actually coming to do a very, very fantastic job. And I think that's why I'm actually looking at them as a good sign. I'm giving them that 5. For Chelsea,
For
well,
Chelsea.
the year started on a good note because they started picking up points, which was expected based on the investment that had already been made on this side. And I think where everyone was surprised was when they actually decided that they were going to actually part ways with Mauricio Pochettino. I think that was a shocker. No one actually saw it coming.
Saw it coming.
And we
Yeah.
were all wondering what was going to happen until they brought in Enzo Maresca from Leicester
Let's
City.
go.
And I think I must say it. Maresca has actually surprised a whole lot of us. A whole lot of
Fantastic.
us
Yeah.
skeptics were feeling like maybe this guy may not actually
This guy,
get this
man.
job
And he
done,
came
but
from Leicester. He was a
he
Leicester
actually he
manager
actually did it. He did it. He actually surprised a lot of people.
from Championship.
He's from championship. I mean, let's face it, until the last 3 games that Chelsea has
Yes.
played, they've been doing fine. They've been doing very, very fine. They're actually second on the table. And we were like saying, while people were saying they were actually in the title race. Maresca said they were not in the title race. And funny enough, it might look funny, but the truth is, when he was asked why he said so, he mentioned it. He said, because my defensive setup is not exactly where I need it to be. And that is the reason why I'm going to rate Chelsea a 6.5
Mm.
for me.
Six on
They've
five.
got
Moving on.
it's good with Kopama. I mean, Kopama is a
Kupama
gem. This
is
is
a
a
gem.
player that everyone will actually want to die to have in their team. You've got a Moises Caicedo who has finally put the price tag beside him and is actually getting to deliver.
It's getting.
You've got an Enzo Fernandez who is actually getting to be on his own. And you've got a Pedro Neto who is actually running the show from the wings. But where Chelsea actually goes short is the central defensive lineup. That is where their biggest problem is. And that's why I'm actually giving them a 6.5. For
Yeah.
Crystal
Crystal
Palace,
Palace. Yes.
wow. Palace will be rated a 4 for me for these reasons. Um, they finally let the old man go and relax. He needed to retire and needed to actually enjoy his retirement in peace. I'm talking about Roy Hodgson
Goldson.
and the
Goldson.
Gotten and Oliver Glasner. Glasner was when he came in first. The results were going their way. It was getting all right, and we all felt like, okay, fine. He's been able to get them steady. So we believe that when the new season will start, it will get better from there. But the season started and Palace went back to factory settings. So for me, I'm rating them a 4 because I personally feel like Palace is not that kind of club that should be struggling in relegation every season.
Yeah.
Palace should
But you
actually be at
forgot
a
have you
point whereby they
forgotten
should.
about they sold Olise?
Yeah,
They
I
didn't they
mean,
didn't
but
they didn't bring they didn't bring better players to replace
let's
him.
be
I mean
realistic.
better
Let's
players.
be realistic. Let's be
Do
realistic
you
with
remember they
ourselves
brought
here.
this Ghanaian guy? What's
Yeah.
his name?
Which one
Ah,
is it?
this
This
guy from
guy.
Ghana.
Are you?
Are you?
Yeah, you didn't
Yeah,
deliver, and they actually shipped him off to the first one is this. They shipped Ayu off to Leicester City. He's
Leicester
not
City.
scoring goals. The person they brought in to replace Ayu, Edin
You
Ketia,
okay?
also
You
is
get
not
him.
scoring
He's
goals.
not
So
scoring goals.
in the case of garbage in, garbage out, it's still one and the
Garbage.
same thing. They are not doing the same thing. They are still doing the same thing. They are not scoring goals. For me, I feel like the case of Olise,
Yeah.
we all knew that it was just a matter of time before someone comes to get this job. And look at him right now in the Bundesliga. He is running the show in Bundesliga. Seriously, with Bayern Munich. Now, the thing is this. It's going to look funny if I'm saying it. I might be a prophet of doom here, but I'm still going to say it. By the ending of, by the middle of 2025, they are still going to lose Eberechi Eze.
Ebere.
Because you see players like this, when you look at how they play, you look at how they compose, and you look at how they carry the team, you know it's just a matter of time before someone will come and pick these players.
That's it.
That is why I said, for me, Palace is still a 4 because the club itself is not actually showing the desire to actually become recognized as far as
Mm.
English sides are. You're looking
Yeah.
at teams like Bournemouth coming to challenge for you. You're looking at teams like Brentford coming to challenge for you. You're looking at teams like Newcastle coming from the Championship to challenge from you. You're looking at Nottingham Forest also doing the same thing. And you have been
Same.
in the Premier League longer than these sides.
Yeah.
What are you doing? It means that something is wrong with your setup and your structure, which is why these new clubs are actually coming in to actually take your position where you're meant to be. So
Mm.
for me,
Mm.
that's why I'm actually rating Palace a 4. For
For
Everton,
Everton. Everton. They are 16 position.
you know, I like to call Everton the cat with 9 lives because every time we say Everton is going to go on a
they
relegation dogfight, they
they hang
find a
in there
way to get out. They always have that energy to actually push.
from nowhere. It
Uh
just came out from me.
for
I think
me,
2 seasons in a row.
in a row,
Two seasons
yes,
like
they've
that.
come from nowhere to actually escape the relegation. For me, Sean Dyche is doing a fantastic job with all the issues that have been on ground with Everton from the beginning of the year. with the whole point deduction charge, the FFP rule breach, and everything. This side actually had 9 points deducted from them,
Can you imagine?
but they
Nine
still
points.
managed to actually get a way to navigate themselves out and escape relegation. And actually, they took
Fantastic.
some big scalps along the way. I think a lot of us will not actually forget that Merseyside derby where, against all expectations, they beat Liverpool. I
Yeah.
think that was where
Oh,
that
yes,
was the game
yes,
that
yes, yes.
gave them.
That
That was the
crack.
game that gave them that nitro, that boost that they needed to actually push it out, and they actually did it. And when the season
You're right.
started in August this year, we are looking at, okay, same old Everton, 5 games on the bounce, lost all five, scored only one goal,
One
conceded
goal.
about 15. We were like, okay, could this be the season whereby finally
Mm.
Everton proves all the doubters right and get relegated? And here we are, 16th on the table.
Yeah.
Lately, they've been getting, funny enough, you can look at their last five
Draw,
matches,
draw.
they've lost only one.
Win.
And funny enough,
Yeah.
the one they lost was actually against a Nottingham Forest.
Nottingham
But before
Forest.
you played the Nottingham Forest, you had played Manchester City, you had
Draw.
played
Arsenal.
Chelsea,
Chelsea and
you had
Arsenal.
played Arsenal,
They all draw.
and you had beaten Wolves by four
Wolves.
goals. It were all draws, and you're like, okay, what is this guy doing? What is this guy doing? What is he cooking here? But the thing is, I think for me, I think I'll give Everton
The
a
scorecard.
5
A
for one
five.
reason, because of the fact that everything has gone against them.
Yeah, I
Poor
think they just
managerial
sorted out their
decisions,
manager. Yeah,
poor
the club,
choices. They just sorted their new ownership
their
and
new
everything.
ownership.
And I
Yeah.
think let's look at it. This is the final season at Goodison Park. By next season, they'll be moving to the new
Wow.
stadium.
The new stadium.
And I believe that they will definitely want to do everything to be sure that they are going to be the new stadium in the Premier League. So for me, I think with everything they've been able to manage, with everything that's on that has actually seen with this side,
The guy
I'll give
tried.
them a 5. He's
All
tried.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Five.
Now for Fulham,
Yeah, for Fulham.
hmm.
Yeah.
Fulham for me will get a 5.5. Marco
5.5
Silva
for
has
Fulham.
been able to handle these guys. To, I
Ah,
think
wow. They
everyone is
tried.
calling Fulham now. They are calling Fulham Hail End 2.0 because somehow it required an injection. It required a donation from the red side of London to actually boost them all of a sudden. Because all of a sudden you're looking at Fulham like trying to prove that yes, they actually belong there. You're looking at
Mm,
when you look at Fulham's resurgence this year, you
mm.
can't do but mention the following names. You
Yeah.
cannot do but mention an Alex Iwobi. I think for me,
Mm,
Iwobi has been an outstanding player for Fulham in the year in
mm.
question because the young man has actually taken that mantle of leadership and is actually been able
Is
to
playing the
deliver
good
in
game.
games where
Yeah.
he is needed. You look at Calvin Bassey, who has actually proven to be a very, very astute signing. When I remember that Bassey was actually signed from when he went to Ajax, he had a very, very disastrous time at Ajax and he was actually sent down to Fulham. Basically, maybe they were looking like, okay, since they didn't need, maybe Fulham might need him. And guy got to Fulham and he's been delivering. You're looking at Harvey Wilson. I think for me,
Wilson.
that
Yeah.
is one player that people have got to watch out for because that young man has somehow found a knack of coming in as a substitute and killing off games. I think there
Mm.
have been a whole lot of casualties to testify what he has actually done to them. Basically,
There's
coming in
there's
when the
also
team was
one player I want you
behind
to
and coming.
notice about
Anthony
in
Robinson.
yeah, Robinson. Yeah.
Anthony Robinson has
American
been
guy.
fantastic. In all honesty, he's been fantastic.
I
I
like
mean,
him.
when we talk
He
about
doesn't get
players,
injured.
we talk about players who are consistent in the Premier League. You're talking about a Bukayo Saka. You know this is a player who is always going to take on defenders day in day out. But when you finally hear that somehow a Bukayo Saka is kept quiet for 90
Quiet.
minutes
Ah,
by an Anthony Robinson,
to Vincent.
you want to look
No,
out
check it.
who is this guy,
Who is
and
this
you
guy?
check him out and you see him basically. And I think Marco Silva has been able to do a good job with this side. I
Mm.
mean, they are ninth on the table or eighth on the table. It shows you
Yeah.
that it's actually a work that's in progress, and I think he's
Yeah, they
getting
are
better.
eight.
So for me, I'll give them a 5.5 for that.
5.5. Moving on to Ipswich. What do you think?
Ipswich.
The scorecard.
Uh,
Ipswich.
okay.
Ipswich.
Uh, for me, Ipswich here gets a 3.5.
Mm.
Why? This is the reason. The early part of the year, they were in the championship. They basically gave Leicester a run for their money in the championship. If you remember, at some point, Leicester were actually 16 points ahead in the
Mm,
championship race,
mm.
and they dropped everything down. This was one of the major things that gave them a challenge for that. Ipswich Town. Now, we expect that finally you are able to get into the Premier League. Basically, we've always said it. For a newly promoted side, the first target you have in the Premier League is to find a way to consolidate yourself to stay up.
Up.
Do not do not do too much. Just find a way to stay up. And how do you do that? You see, do not focus on the top part of the table. Don't focus on the
Yes.
top 10. Focus on the bottom 10.
The bottom. Yeah.
Pick the games that you know that these games you are going to make sure you get all 3 points in these games. Set yourself a target of 40 points. The earlier you get it, the better for you. We all know 40 is the magical number in the Premier League. If you get 40
Yes.
points, you're safe.
You are safe.
That is always a target for a new promoted side. For Ipswich Town, they came, got some average signs that I feel can still hold it down for them, but the thing was the results were not going in their way. Just imagine me saying here that for an Ipswich Town, you're getting your first home win of the season on
Mm.
December the 28th. On December the 30th, basically 1 day before the year ends. That tells
Can you
you you
imagine?
have been poor at home. You can do better. That's why I'm giving them a 3.5. The manager McKenna is doing a good job, but to be honest with you, I may not see him lasting beyond February of 2025
Ooh.
because he might actually get sacked. Yeah.
Mm. All right. Moving on to
Leicester
Leicester
City.
City. They are struggling too.
Ah, I mean, how bad can it be? You finally get to the Premier League with a manager who has actually driven the odds, who the fans did not actually get to like at some point. In fact, they wanted him out of their club,
Long
and he
time.
finally got them up. And right then they were thinking, okay, maybe we can now say we are back in the Premier League. Someone comes in, picks him from you, and then you are left to start scratching your head like, okay,
Wait here.
the the rejected stone has now become the cornerstone. So what are you going to do? Well, the first big mistake they made was they went to bring in Steve Cooper.
Yeah.
Steve Cooper, for me, is not the kind of manager who will actually fit in for what Leicester City has in mind. Cooper likes to work with a certain caliber of players. Those players were not it at Leicester City. The one person who would have worked for Cooper at that rate is a Jamie Vardy. But Jamie Vardy is 38. He's not a kid anymore. Age has caught up to him. He's still that fox in the box. Definitely, we're
Mm-hmm.
not taking that away from him. But the thing is, right now, he doesn't have that speed that he used to have of those years. This was a major problem. The pattern of play was not getting to the players, and eventually, after pushing and shoving, he got fired. They got in the Wood Van Nistelrooy. First three
Mm.
games it was high flying and everything, but right now it seems as if that honeymoon phase has gotten to an
I
end.
tell you. Back to
Personally,
factory setting.
I feel like Leicester's shortcomings were this: they were not able to get a striker who can actually take over duties from Jamie Vardy. No matter what they are going to say, they got two strikers from Crystal Palace. Fun enough, an Hudson Edward and
Yeah, yeah,
Jordan
yes.
Ayew.
Jordan, are you?
Both of them combined will not fit into Vardy's left foot.
Can you
I'm
imagine?
being honest with you. That's
Can you
how
imagine?
bad and abysmal they've been. You do not expect those kind of strikers to actually get you to where you need to get to. So based on that, they are suffering. Defensive line is also a major challenge. There are some outstanding players in this Leicester team. I look at a Stephen Mavididi. I see him as a very good player. I look at a James Justin, a fantastic player. I
Yeah,
look at
Justin. Yeah.
this young man, El Canus, also the Moroccan guy, also a very good player. But I feel like for Leicester to actually maintain their Premiership status,
Yeah.
they've got to get at least 7 or 8 players who will always consistently deliver upon
Yeah.
game week. And for me, I am not seeing it. That is
Hmm.
why I would say, for me, I will rate Leicester City as a 3.
Three.
In all
Hmm.
honesty, yes.
Hmm. All right, moving on to this club right now, and that's Liverpool. They are
Okay.
flying. They are flying.
For me, I'm rating Liverpool as a 9.
Hmm.
My reasons are this. Um,
Last
you
season
know,
they lost the
last season
manager, they lost their
they
manager.
pettered out. Yeah, I think basically the year started for Liverpool on a bad note because
Bad notes, yeah.
that that news of Klopp
Klopp
stepping
going,
down
stepping
came
down.
in January. It was basically
Yeah.
the first news we got in January, and
January, yes.
you could tell it was it was more like the beginning of the end for Liverpool's season because from that January things started going south. When you add it coupled to the injuries by Diogo Jota,
Mm.
it also affected the team as well too, and you began to wonder what is going to happen. Well, they were able to brave it and push at least they knew they were out of the title race by February basically.
Mm.
To take over.
Mm.
I think for me that was the point whereby things changed because for me, Anslot just came to consolidate on what Klopp left behind. And funny enough, you can actually see the results. They are high flying. Everyone is just saying basically the 2024-25 Premier League title is simply Liverpool's to lose at this point because
At
they've
this
got a
point.
point advantage, they've got a game advantage, which will be played next week from what I've already got to. Yes, the reports coming at that. March day 20, we are going to have a double game week fixture of Liverpool and Everton at
Oh yeah.
Goodison Park. Is going to be played there. So we're looking at a side that basically did not do much. They just only reminded themselves of what they are. And I think
Did they sign any player?
they didn't really. They
They
didn't really
didn't.
sign
Yeah.
anyone.
They didn't
I think
sign
they
any player.
signed. I think they signed only one. I think they signed only one person. I think that was it. I think they signed one
Mm.
person. They didn't really sign.
Yeah.
Honestly, they didn't really sign. The only thing was just that Slot came in and he just did only one tweak. He moved Gravenberch
To
from
the
defense
CDM.
to DM, and that was
DM.
it. That was just it. That was just it. He moved into
And
DM, and that
Gravenberg
was
have been
basically it
playing
for me. So I
very,
think
very good now.
there's no way we are going to talk about Liverpool's year without mentioning Liverpool very well. Funny enough, I think we cannot mention Liverpool's season without mentioning with Liverpool's year without mentioning the Pharaoh of Egypt, Mohamed Salah.
Mm. Boss.
There's
Boss,
nothing we're
boss,
going to talk
boss.
about Liverpool right now without mentioning Salah's name because Salah has had
Salah.
a fantastic year. No doubt about that. At this rate, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to see any other.
Mm. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, it's looking like he has everything set up for him. He's leading on the goal scorers chart. He's leading on the
Yes.
assist charge. He has created a lot of chances this season, and you begin to wonder, how do you stop
How
this
do
man?
this man?
In all honesty, you can't. I don't know
Almost
how
Salah
you
Lule
do it.
show.
You just can't. You
He
just
just
can't.
can't.
If anything happens to Salah, then Liverpool will be worried. But at this rate, I mean, come on. The guy makes them look too good. So for me, I think
Yeah.
that's basically Liverpool for me in the year. Give them a 9.
Mm.
Um,
Man City.
Manchester City. Okay. I think the best way you can describe Man City is
From
how
grace
have the mighty fallen.
fallen. Beautiful.
From
Beautiful.
grace in May to the doldrums by December.
By
Although, to
December.
be blunt with ourselves, for those of us who were football fans who actually followed how the league was going, we actually saw those cracks coming up. I remember
Mm.
when we started the season, when we were having our discussion on the Premier League review show. I remember saying at the point, I remember I said Man City will not win the Premier League this season, and I gave my reasons.
You-
I said, first of all, for a good side that know how to strategize and handle their opponents, the easiest way to kill off Man City, you work on 3 pressure points. If you work on those 3 pressure points, you've got a Man City. Pressure point number one:
Tell me.
look for a mobile defender and just hand over Erling Haaland to him.
Try.
You solved one problem. So far, you've gotten him already. Haaland has been kept quiet in majority of games. We know basically Haaland has nothing to do when he doesn't have the ball, especially in the 18. That is where he's efficient. Now, when you find a way to prevent him from getting to the 18, or you find a defender who basically kicks at him, Haaland hates physicality. He has the strength, but he
Yeah.
doesn't like it when it is used against him. That is one thing they've used to hold City. Number two, the engine room for City is Rodri.
Mm. Yes.
In this case, it was just a sad case of injury taking Rodri out. And we have seen that Rodri's absence is glaring in that team.
Glaring,
There is no
glaringly.
coordination, there is
Hmm.
no leadership, there is no focus, and there is no direction in that midfield. It's as if you're seeing a City side coming to play, and when you get the midfield from them and you score them, it's as if you just take a little child's balloon and you just put a pin to it.
Put on the pain. Yeah.
It's gone.
Mm.
The third
So
pressure point, we've always been saying it.
the third, yeah, the third one.
City's defense is nothing to
Oh,
write home about. Ederson, for me, is not convincing to be their first choice keeper. I feel like they could have gotten a goalkeeper during the beginning of the season because I feel like Ederson has not really convinced me that he has what City are looking for.
mm.
And also, we're not forgetting the fact that we've always been mentioning it. Kevin De Bruyne is not the same Kevin De Bruyne we
The
used to
same
know.
player.
The
Yeah.
man has gotten old, and all of a sudden, he's no longer 100%, and he's standing on this side. Um, I will rate Man City for me
Yeah. Give me
2024.
your ratings. Yeah.
Yes, they might be the defending champions, but for me, I'm actually rating them a 6
A six.
because when
Wow.
they tailed off badly. They tailed off badly, and that's why they are getting a 6.
All right. Moving on to
Manchester United,
Manchester
on the other
United.
side of
Yes.
Manchester.
Yes. The
Ha!
red.
Do I should I be nice? Should I be nice?
Very,
I'll
very
be
nice,
nice
please.
on my
Very,
scorecard
very nice.
because the truth is, the best position United can actually get is a 3.
The best.
Because for me, the only
They
outstanding thing
won the FA
United,
Cup. Oh.
that's the only outstanding thing they've done. No, honesty. That was the only outstanding thing they did in the year in question.
Chai.
And they only did it because somehow Pep decided to just, you know what, let's give this one to the boys. They were like, and you only used it to make Ten Hag look good. Ten Hag was not good, you know, honestly. I think for me, United's case, generally, I think we were mentioning it yesterday when I said wherever Ten Hag is,
Mm.
wherever Ten Hag is, my God will judge him.
Ah.
Because I have looked at Manchester United this season, this year in question, and I worry because not because of the fact that I'm a rival, but because of the fact
Mm.
that I mean, when you're talking about the Premier League, there's no way you will talk about the Premier League without mentioning names like Manchester United,
Of course,
names
yes.
like Arsenal, names like Chelsea. In fact, names like Liverpool. Before you even talk mentioning City, because City basically came in when the money came in. Apart from that, nobody knew
They
City.
are nothing.
City started
Yes.
having fans when Pep came in. These are the traditional heavyweights, and all of a sudden you're looking at all the other heavyweights doing well, and we're looking at Manchester United, and it's the opposite. For
Mm.
me, why I gave them that rating is this.
Three.
I personally feel like the management
The
did United in.
management.
They made wrong choices, they made wrong transfer policies, they bought in wrong players, and they held on
Mm.
too long to certain players that should have left the club. And those things have contributed to what Manchester United is right now. I remember there was a time when they wanted to get a particular player. Yes, I just remembered now. I look at United, and the only way I can summarize Manchester United is with one transfer. Anthony Elanga. Elanga
Mm.
was a player who I saw came from the academy with a mission,
Academy.
and that
Yeah.
mission was to actually break into this team and take that role vote that was left by Mason Greenwood by all means possible. What happened? The young man went on a loss of form for about 3 months, and the next thing that was decided was that he was surplus to requirements. And
Yeah.
United sold him to Nottingham Forest. Guess who they went into Ghana to replace him with?
Mm.
Anthony.
Anthony.
Now, let us compare the year in question. Anthony Elanga and Anthony.
Anthony.
Simple Anthony. The difference is as wide as the
Mm.
difference between Canada and the US. It's that wide. Anthony has failed to live up to expectations, and he paid 60 million for him. Right now, you're talking about a case of him going to be going out on loan in January to
Mm.
where I don't know. That summarizes United's transfer policies for me.
That's the
Two,
management.
they got in a player who personally I feel does not have the requirements needed to succeed in the Premier League. I'm talking about Joshua Kexi. Kexi has all the qualities you do not want in a Premier League striker. He is slow. He is not physically enabled for the Premier League, and he takes time in making decisions. This guy even told you basically, he told you he's not a 9. He calls himself a 9.5. That already
9.5.
tells you there's a
Really?
problem somewhere
Really anyway.
because this guy doesn't know exactly what he wants to do. He doesn't know what
I'm
he
telling.
wants to do in England, and you
Oh
can
my
see it.
god.
For me, I
Oh
feel
my
the
god.
management let the club down. The players themselves have not actually justified why they should be representing the club. Ten Hag contributed to it. It's just unfortunate that Ruben Amorim just came in to meet, and
Came
he
into.
actually said it's going to get hard before it gets better. We are seeing it.
We are seeing it. We are seeing it already.
United, United are struggling to win things. I was looking at something yesterday and I said something. I said if I said that thing on the group, Bishop would kill me if I said it. I said I look at Manchester United and I remember Bolton Wanderers. It's
Chai.
bad. It's that bad. When I look at that, Bolton is actually in League One. That is how bad it is.
How
So
bad?
I think for me, this is a year that, in all honesty, Manchester United want to forget because apart from the FA Cup
Quickly
victory, that was the
end
only
the
star they
season.
had. Now, Newcastle United.
Yes.
Well, I think I must give a lot of recommendation and a lot of respect to Eddie Howe
Anyhow.
because the guy seems to be the one man who is actually flying the British flag high. You know, when we talk about the Premier League, one thing we always say about Premier League is the massive presence of foreigners in the best
Mm.
league in the world.
Mm.
Right now, as we speak, there are only two English managers. There are only three English managers in the Premier League because people are forgetting that Thomas Frank is also English.
Oh yes. Oh
People
yeah.
forget about that Thomas Frank is also English of Brentford. The other person is McKenna of Ipswich Town and
Mm.
Eddie Howe.
Oh
And
yeah.
Eddie Howe has been able to hold his own despite every
Oh
factor that
yeah.
has been done to actually get him out. Because
Mm.
I personally feel like one thing about English football and why I feel like English football still hasn't gotten to where it needs to be is called the fact that the fans contribute a whole lot.
Yeah.
A team is doing good, they sing the praises of that team to high heavens. Once the team goes on a run of two matches that don't
Mm.
go their way, automatically the hate comment starts. I personally feel like what Eddie Howe has been able to do with Newcastle has been outstanding. He has taken the disappointment of the early part of 2024 and he's been able to find a way to revive the hopes of this club side. And I think we've always said one thing about Newcastle, that's the fact that their strikers, if they can stay fit, then they could actually challenge seriously.
Seriously.
Well, it's as if our prayers were actually heard because one man is on fire right now, and there's no other way we can actually skip Newcastle's
I got
rejuvenation without
it's
mentioning him.
it's Isaac.
Alexander Isak.
Isaac.
I always tell everyone that I tell everyone that I tell you that personally where I felt like my own club missed it was
You will
they
have
could
gone for
have
that.
gone all the way out to get Isak because whenever I see Isak, I see the kind of striker that would work for us. He is skillful. He
He
is
got
very,
speed,
very trickish.
precision.
And he
Yeah,
has
tricky
pace, he has positioning, and he can actually score. That's the
score.
funny thing. I personally felt like this was just the missing plug that this club needed.
Hmm.
Although the rumors are still saying that Arsenal will go again for him at the end of the season. I personally feel like they need to get a striker because this guy is what makes Newcastle different. 2024
Different.
has been a very great year. I think the only
Yeah.
thing that they missed was getting a title, which I felt like they could have gotten any of the domestic cups,
Hmm.
be it the Carabao Cup or the Premier League title. I felt like they were not sure of themselves, which was why they got knocked out. Well, they are still
Hmm.
in one now. They are still in the Carabao Cup currently, and they'll be playing Arsenal in the first week of January for the Carabao Cup
Hmm.
semi-finals. So I think maybe 2025 might be that year where I say, okay, maybe Newcastle finally get a trophy. Well, we'll actually wait to see. Let's see how it's
Hmm.
going to be. For me, I'll rate Newcastle. I'll give them a 5.5.
Hmm.
Yes.
500. Yeah, 5.5. What about this club? Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
What?
Oh well. I
This
think
time
these
last
are
season.
basically going to be. This is the
Come
team.
on.
This is the team. This is the.
From
This
grass
is
to
the.
from
This is
grass
the.
to
These are
grace.
the underdogs of the season.
Oh, yes.
As
Come
at
on now.
February this year,
This year.
Nottingham Forest were around 16th, 17th on the table.
Yes.
As we are having this recording right now, they are second on the table.
Can you imagine?
That tells you that. Anyway, you can't blame them. The Holy Spirit has
Omo.
actually visited them. That is why
I'm
they are
t-
doing well. And
Enigbo Rumole.
I think I
Nottingham
think
Forest.
I think yes, they went to get the Holy Spirit literally because most people do not recognize it, but the literal translation of Nuno Espirito Santo actually means the Holy Spirit.
Holy
So
Spirit.
basically, they got the Holy Spirit to come and take over the team, and that is why they are in the position where they are. I think Nuno has taken the Nottingham Forest project
Second.
as
Ah,
a
ah.
redemption,
They are winning
for the
games.
misadventure he had at Tottenham Hotspur. Because Nuno, we all saw Nuno at Wolves. This was a manager who was able to bring the Portuguese national team to the Premier League, and they were doing fine. I mean, you had your Jao Gomez, you had your fantastic players. He had the Pedro Netos, the Johnny Otto. You had good players who were actually delivering on the pitch of play. And then the
Hmm.
Tottenham job came, and it was like that job was a job that was too big to refuse, and he went over for it. And we saw what happened. It was a disaster. It was a misadventure. He finally left the Premier League after he got sacked by Tottenham, and he went out. Then, when the Nottingham Forest came calling for him,
Hmm.
he came back, and we're actually seeing the results. I think one of the key things that's been able to actually stand out for him to actually make this thing work is the rejuvenation of Chris Wood. Chris Wood has become a player that no one actually saw what happened. This is a striker who had already been having issues with injuries and loss
Yeah,
of form, but
injuries.
Wood has come back and he is scoring. In fact, he's been performing so well that the striker who they actually brought in to actually get them goals is comfortably sitting on the bench. Although
Mm-hmm.
not to
Yeah.
any fault of his, got injured, and whenever a player gets injured, it's always a major challenge because you have to start all over again to try and bring
Yeah,
the player
from the
back.
bench.
I
Yeah.
think for me, that was what brought Awoni to the bench. But Chris Wood has actually proven that yes, he's here and he's here daring anyone that if you want to come for a shirt, you have to do your work
Do your
extremely hard to actually get it. He's been able to groom players like be able to groom players like Anthony Elanga to become a
Elanga.
standard player. Look at
Mm-hmm.
Olaino. Olaino is working wonders in that
And also
defense for me. I think
Hudson. Hudson Dudoi.
and Hudson Odoi as well too. I think these are players that have been outstanding for me, and I think this is why Nottingham Forest are in the position where they are. For me, I think with what he's actually done with them, I will actually give
Fantastic.
this guy. I will give
Mm.
Nottingham Forest a 7.5 for me because I think they've actually done well for themselves this year in question. That's why I'm giving them a
Mm.
7.5.
7.5 for
Southampton.
Nottingham Forest. Southampton now. Southampton.
Yeah, Southampton. For me, I think Southampton. This journey did not go well for them. In all honesty, the year,
Absolutely.
well, against all odds, Southampton came into the Premier League this year at the expense of Leeds United, because if you were following the championship last season, Leeds
Mm,
did all the work only to falter right at the very end. It was at the very end that they faltered.
mm.
And Southampton took that advantage and got in. And, well, we just have to say it. Southampton did not plan for this Premier League season at all, which is why they are where they are on the
At
table.
all. The poor. Yeah.
They didn't plan for it.
Very, very poor.
There were no proper signings. The only person you got was basically some little signings, and those of these signings are not actually up to speed. I think the only thing that makes them even okay have a sense of semblance a bit is just two players that I think I'll pull out here. A little kid called Diblin, and the
Dribbling.
experience that
Yes.
Ramsdale brings in goal. I think when he got injured, it was obvious because they were shipping in goals like they were actually leaking, they were actually offloading a dam somewhere, because they were just taking in goals from no from every angle. Lumley is obviously not a keeper I want to actually trust in the Premier League, and he actually proved it. It got so bad that basically they had to rush Ramsdale back. And if you've noticed it, Ramsdale's gloves currently are actually custom made, because where normally
Mm.
you have 5 fingers on the keeper, Ramsdale has 4. That tells you that tells you how
Are you kidding me?
important they are. Yes, he has. If you've looked at his right hand glove, it's actually 4 digits there. What they did was
Four.
they
Ah,
fused two. They fused two pads to make it one. Simply because of the fact that the broken finger he had is actually the fourth digit. So they put the broken finger and a normal digit, and they tied the two of them together so that it can actually heal.
mm.
They have to make a custom made glove for him to actually fit in the two fingers together. So it's basically he's like this in go. So that is why it's actually
My
impressive.
God.
And
Wow.
I personally feel like the young man is actually proving that he is a good keeper. He's just had an unfortunate choices of clubs.
Mm.
That's what's outstanding for him. Russell Martin, the manager who was there, who just got sacked, who brought them to the League. Yes, Russell Martin, no arguments against him. He is a
That
good
guy.
manager.
That for
However,
real?
he's a good manager, but this is where the problem is.
The
There are
guy
some
know the
managers
year
that
one.
are best suited for lower leagues, not the
Mm.
Premier League.
Not
For
the
you to
Premier
be in the
League.
Premier League, you have to be the best at what you do. And that for me, he wasn't. It was his lack of decision making and his stubbornness that actually got him sacked and got him to where
I'm
Southampton are.
telling you,
And
stubborn.
based on that, I'm going to rate Southampton a 2 over 10.
Two. Mm. All
Yes.
right, moving on to this club, Tottenham Hotspur. Spursy.
Spursy. A classic case of
Spursy.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That is what we're
Yeah.
calling Spurs. Um, I think Spurs, well, man, we already knew beginning of the year that obviously there was no hurricane anymore. We knew that
Mm.
already. So we're now looking at the mantle of leadership falling to a son Heung-min. And in
Mm.
all honesty, I'll be blunt with you. It has kind of led to the drop in Son's career, in Son's
Mm.
Tottenham performance, because
Mm.
now Son is now playing in much deeper position and is affecting him.
Mm.
He has moved more or less from a winger to a
Wingers
central
to the
defender.
center.
Yes, and the contribution he contributes to the team has waned a bit. For me, Spurs, wherever they are this season, I think Spurs have always had this issue with consistency. In all honesty, it has gotten worse under Ange. The
Ange.
problem Spurs have is this: they have a
High
manager
line.
who is
High
stubborn
line. He's also
to
stubborn
adjust to
too.
change.
Come on.
The high line pattern It's a good pattern. I will not deny it. However, if you've noticed one thing about football clubs that tend to use a high line, they have the confidence of using a high line because of the fact that they've got defenders who can
Defenders.
actually cover up in case of an emergency. Spurs don't have it. They don't. And it's killing them. I think the best way we can summarize Spurs is the fact that the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which when people felt that since they actually built it, it should have become a fortress for them,
Fortress.
is a place where anybody can just go and get 3 points
Anybody
without
can
any
beat them any day. Yeah.
that tells you that something is going wrong. And unfortunately for Ange, I'm not too familiar that Ange knows the person he works for. We all know Daniel Levy for one thing.
Mm.
Daniel Levy can be ruthless when it comes to hiring and firing managers. And if this continues to the first quarter of 2025,
This guy is going.
Ange will be out of the job because of the inconsistency and the ability to give one good game today and give three terrible games after. I'm giving Spurs a 4.5.
4.5. Wow. 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 All right. What about this club? That's West Ham. That guy is still hanging in there. West Ham. Ah, that coach is
West Ham has a
crazy.
four
It's
for me. West Ham has a
four.
4 for me. Yes.
And they bought so many
And
players.
that is me being nice to them. It's a 4. Normally, I would give West Ham a 3, but I'm giving them a 4 because of the fact that they still have the players who can actually get the job done, the players who can save the day.
Mm.
I think for me, I think the year in question saw David Moyes face a whole lot of challenges and everything, but Moyes proved that he actually is a good manager. It's just unfortunate that West Ham is a classic case of you do not appreciate what you have until it's gone. You don't know what you've got until it's gone. That's what happened to West Ham. You
Yeah.
had a manager who basically gave you European fame. He put you on the spotlight. You have never gotten close to any trophy,
Any
and he actually
trophy.
handed you a major European trophy, and you felt because we were having a volume of games, the best thing you could do was to tell him,
Yeah.
you know what, I give you a contract. Then you withdraw the contract for him before he's actually meant to sign
Yeah.
it. That for me was the
Mm.
beginning of the end for West Ham. And no surprises. He was able to
Mm.
manage the tide, steady the ship to the end of the season, and they let him go. And they went all
Mm.
out to go and get a world class manager, in quotes,
Yeah.
in Julian Lopetegui.
Lopetegi. Yeah.
When they talk about world class with Julian Lopetegui, no offense, I personally do not see Lopetegui as a world class manager. Because when I look at his
Wow.
CV, there is nothing in that CV to convince me that he's good.
Mm.
This was a manager, if you
Mm.
remember very well, this was a manager that was actually hired by Madrid. Remember?
Yeah. 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 Yes. Of course. Yes. I
Good.
remember.
Was hired by Madrid because they felt like, in fact, to get Lopetegui, Madrid actually went against all odds. They went to Spain, hijacked this guy from Spain, from the national team, went behind his back, pushed him, and eventually the guy lost the national team job and came to Madrid.
Yeah.
How long did he last in
Yes.
Madrid? Less than 3 months. He was sacked. He came to Wolves, gave them all the highline and everything. Wolves refused to sign him. They got someone else. When they finally sacked that person, they went back to him.
To him.
And the
Yes.
guy signed and took over the job. And right when got 2 days before the league will start, he quit. Said because he wasn't giving money to buy players. Now West Ham bought him. What he requested for money to buy players, they gave him. West Ham went and bought fantastic players in their own individual
Only.
rights.
Yes.
But now look at performances. It tells nothing to show for it. How he still has a job to this point, honestly,
I
is still
don't.
a surprise to
I.
me. I do not
I'm
know
telling you.
because when we were tipping for managers to get sacked, he was
It
actually
was there.
among the first.
Yeah.
He was in the first two. But funny enough, Some managers have been let go that I personally feel would do a better job than even him
This
at
guy.
West Ham. Now it's just a case of it's what they asked for, they've gotten it. I hope they will be happy with it because the truth is this: they always say the end justifies the means, and based on that end, I'm giving West Ham a 3.
3. Let's move on to this last one. Wolves.
Wolverhampton.
Wolves. Mm.
I feel
Wolves.
Wolverhampton Wanderers in 2024 were their own greatest undoing. They had fantastic players. They had players who were actually doing the job. Gary O'Neill, for me, I personally felt it was not justified that he was sacked because I honestly do not see a manager who would take all the challenges that he had and still make good use of what he was able to do with it. He was able to do a good job keeping them in the Premier League, going to get players that, in all honesty, these are players that when he signed them, you like, oh, at least he just wants to get someone to just manage. But that management has not done nothing. A perfect example is Cunha. When Cunha was
That
bought
guy's good.
in, Matheus Cunha, when he was bought in from Atletico Madrid, I was like,
Mm.
ha, these guys have got guts. You go to a club like Atleti and you actually draw a player all the way from the high echelons in Spain to come
Mm.
down to England to struggle with this team. And man, the performances have been outstanding. The young man
Mm.
has basically has taken a lot of big clubs. We
I'm
talk about
telling you.
there's no way we are going to talk about some major victories of Western or of Wolverhampton Wanderers this season without mentioning Cunha. And he actually
Mm.
has done it, but I think the club was impatient with what Gary was doing and they had to let him go. The new manager who has come in is a Portuguese manager. He understands the players very well because most of the players in Wolves actually are Portuguese. And I think he's been able to bring in a different flair to that team. And I think for me, that's why I'm actually going to rate Wolverhampton Wanderers a 4.
A 4.
Yes.
A 4. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jeffers. This is this scorecard for the year 2024 for all the teams in EPL. I have the pleasure to have Jeffers that have been doing the analysis. Big up to you, bro. Thank you so much on this one. This is fantastic. And well, 2025 is around the corner. Let me ask you one serious question about Arsenal. Are you guys still winning the league?
It's
Can
funny.
you guys still win it?
On it? Yes, we can. Yes, we are winning the league.
I'm going to clip this. I'm going to clip this.
Yes, we can actually do it. We will do it. Definitely.
All right. Thank you so much, bro. And thank you so much. Please, people, smash the like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Thank you so much, Jeffers.